Our final presentation will be given by Heike Hoedt. And Heike will talk about combating the current crisis of democracy, initiative on the participation of the civil society. Heike, please.
Thank you. I'm here because I received the Nuclear Free Future Award in 2006 for our work. I received it together with Wolfgang Schäffler for our work with solar technology. And I'm not here to talk about that because we learned that technology solves a lot of stuff, but it doesn't solve the underlying problems of our society. We came to learn that the democratic crisis is something that really is for us a core issue, underlying many other problems we face today. And the former president of Germany mentioned it yesterday, that there is a crisis. People don't feel confident that politics can solve the problems ahead. I want to share with you our vision and also a little political experiment we're doing right now. When I say our vision, it's maybe a group of between 30 and 60 people who is now doing something. I will not show any slides. I'll just try to talk freely, and I will hardly manage in 10 minutes, but I'll try. Let me stop the time. Okay. 15 is fine. Thank you so much. Yeah. You see, I'm a bit stressed. Yeah, no stress. Okay, so my title here, Combating the Current Crisis of Democracy, includes two hypotheses. Number one, we have a crisis, and number two, it can be combated. And this is what also gives me a lot of hope. Somebody's adding. Okay, the baseline for the crisis, I think I don't have to elaborate that much. People are fed up with democracy, something that can be perceived. They don't believe in democracy anymore. Lots of people don't vote. Other people vote more extreme than they used to. Other people drop out of the democratic system and turn to other solutions, for example, terrorism. Here, locally, you could say people don't perceive the European Union as a democratic institution. This is part of the crisis. And B, bad decisions. We all suffer from bad decisions. And I think many of the laureates who work with conservation, human rights, and so on, very well know what I'm talking about. For example, the ongoing wars, this is bad decisions, isn't it? And the fact that many times laws protect the interest of lobby groups coming from industry. This is bad decisions, but they're democratic decisions. So this is part of the core of the crisis. What is needed for combating this crisis? We need something that can provide good political decisions. We need a method, a concept, a system, a procedure that can provide good political decisions that involve all stakeholders, that are based on information and not on demagogic campaigns or well-funded campaigns, but on information which those who decide have access to. We need decisions that are not pre-formulated by the interested parties. Parties not as political parties, but as maybe stakeholders. We need decisions that are based on common sense and take into account the common good. And our current system is not really always catering to that. We have decisions based on the interests of certain groups. It has to be a democratic process where people feel involved, and there has to be a mechanism that this feeling reflects into people's satisfaction. People are not satisfied right now with our democratic system, and any new way of handling democracy has to have this aspect of making people feel more content, because this will change the whole picture. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well. I want to skip the whole part of analysis right now because maybe it's too theoretical and time is running. Around 40 years ago at the University of Wuppertal, research was started because even then it was noted in science that we are facing a democratic crisis. So research started, an analysis started of democratic elements of different democracies, elements like elections, the way administration acts, the way decisions are prepared by experts, stuff like this. This was all analyzed, and then it was researched whether the enhancement of any of these democratic elements would provide any betterment. And the analysis resulted in the development of a different method which would synthesize the positive aspects of our existing democratic elements. And I really want to talk about that. I want to present to you a method which we think can combat the crisis only if it's applied. And this is where we come to our little political experiment. Just a second. The method I want to describe has been implemented hundreds of times already, and the implementation was always scientifically followed. So this is an iteration of developing a method. It is internationally usable, and it has been used on international level, but most of the runs were performed in Germany. There are providers installed, companies, you could say offices that moderate the process. And now I describe it. If you have a political decision ahead, no matter at which level, it could be on municipality level or it could be on international level, doesn't matter, then you need to involve all the stakeholders, so they are selected randomly from the registry, from the citizen registry. Now, if we are talking about a decision in a town, it would be the registry of that town because all the stakeholders live in that town. But if it's a whole country like Germany, then it could be selected from representative parts. This has also been carried out nationwide. The idea is that if you randomly select, and random is the key really, you cannot pre-select the participants. If you randomly select the participants, then you get, if you have a sufficient number of people, you get a cross-section of society. Those involved are then representing some parts of society, and it was found that you need at least 200 people, and for large issues it could be up to 400. And then you end up with a cross-section of society. You will find maybe unemployed youth, you will find some professor, you will find people from industry everywhere. But everybody participates as a private person, not representing anybody. But naturally ends up representing the rest of his peer group, you could say. So these people are invited in written form, and you have to invite lots more people than will actually come. But there is a way of facilitating that people come. They're actually paid to participate because the idea is that they become consultants to politics. The participants of this method are consultants to politics, and in the end, the outcome of their work, which would usually last 4 days, is a report, which is then a guideline so for politics to take the decision. So the idea here is that democracy is again based on people who participate with their common sense, and they pre-prepare a decision, and then politics are just executing. Politicians are executing what people have prepared. There is expert input because information is a key, and even people who are professional politicians cannot have all the information. They need to make a decision, so they always involve experts and panels and so on. You all know that. So here the idea is that those who take part in such a process, they get presentations from experts from all sides, controversial information, the information itself doesn't have to be neutral, but later on the experts are excluded. They're not part of a decision process or of preparing the report. The whole 4 days, people are again randomly selected to participate in small groups. Like if I say we have maybe a nationwide issue which has to be tackled, let's say how to deal with the refugee crisis, then these 400 people who are invited are distributed over groups of 25. And they will not mix under the 25. This will be a group which works together for 4 days. And any large issue is subdivided in small aspects. The current crisis of refugees can be having maybe 10, 20 different sub-aspects, and those will be tackled in sessions of 40 minutes, 1 hour. And the participants of the process work together in groups of 5. And this is a core point, because talking eye to eye and talking in a very small group helps to bring everybody to the same level. And it helps to bring everybody to a level where he can talk authentically as a person, not as a representative of something, of any opinion. And this was very well researched, because there's some psychological background to that. Then for the next session of the overlying question, the small groups of 5 exchange participants. It's like a lottery. Now you will be in another group. And this avoids, for example, leadership. And it was found out that by the end of the 4 days, everybody has about the same time, speaking time. So this proves that even people who would normally not speak up, maybe an old grandmother which doesn't have a high level of education, she will still end up having contributed as much as somebody who is a literature professor. So this proves that people can be involved. A report is prepared summing up all the results of this. Let me check the time. Yeah, I have 4 more minutes. And hand it over to politics. Now this method is well researched. It is proven. It has been proven that this even works in very conflicting situations. There was an instance in Basqueland in Spain, where there was a dispute over how a highway should be constructed. And the parties, are at the edge of war, you could say, in the Basque community. But then, it's the Spanish government and the Basque community and so on, some years back. And with this method, they ended up to find a type of consensus, because everybody was on the same level and everybody was heard. And then, because this report needs to be published at the end, that is actually very important. It needs to be communicated to the society that this report was done, and that the invited people do represent a cross-section of society. Then people can suddenly accept a decision, because they see, oh, I was somehow involved in this. So, I want to come to a problem, but let me say that, this has been performed hundreds of times, but it is always solicited by somebody. So the fact that this method is applied is based on goodwill of somebody. For example, in Bavaria, there was a minister from the CSU, Herr Sinner. He was very fond of this method, so it was applied a few times in Bavaria, even to find the baseline for the Ministry of Consumer Protection. That was done with the method. It's called Bürgergutachten. But then this politician is gone and nobody applies the method anymore. So it really depends on goodwill of certain people to apply the method. And this is, for us, we think, yes, the method is great, but we have to find a way to implement it more and more. Because if you end up in a situation where all of us, once or twice in our life, can be part of such a democratic process, because it's like a lottery, you will be part of it sometime in your life if the method is applied a lot, then society will change from within. So, how to make this happen? We've been reflecting maybe 15 years and experimenting. How could it be applied more often? And the conclusion is this is really difficult, because such a process where you invite 200 or 400 people and then a neutral institution like an office has to conduct it. And there's so much logistics, getting experts and stuff that's really expensive. So how to do it, how to get it done. And we found no real solution and ended up with a political experiment that now in Germany there's a party which is even going to stand for the next parliamentary elections, which is a methodological party. It's not based on any opinion. The party says, we stand for this method. If you elect this party, we will make sure that this method will be applied, and whatever is the outcome, our representatives in parliament will stick to that. So the representatives in parliament stick to what the citizens formulated in the report, irrespective of their personal opinion, because they have to acknowledge, those representatives in parliament, that this method produces outcomes based on common sense and with a perspective for the common good. Yeah, so this is at the moment a political experiment. It's over, and I want to say it's a problematic political experiment because there's a lot of resistance in people when they hear only the word party. But this is our trial to make it possible for people themselves to take the initiative for betterment of democracy, you could say, in a way that is integrated in our ongoing system. I mean, the other extreme would be revolution. But no, let's do something to make democracy better, integrating this into what is already established. Okay, unfortunately, this is over. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Heike, for that perspective on the inclusion of civil society. We have a few minutes.